Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Spill the Beans. Today I'm sitting down with Maria Zondervan, who is a member of Legacy Family, our mastermind, and has a ton of experience in real estate, single family, real estate, multifamily, and in owning businesses. She really specializes though in how to maximize your returns on a passive investment. So that's what we're really going to be honing in on during this sit down, and I'm excited to share some of her revelations in investing passively in different projects. So let's go sit down with Maria. Maria, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome to Charleston.
Thank you, thank you.
So you're here in Charleston talking about how to maximize returns as a passive investor. So I'm excited to watch your masterclass on that, because who doesn't want to maximize their returns?
Absolutely.
And I want to dive deep into that, especially in this changing interest rate environment. There's a lot of investors who might be looking to change up their returns, maybe something that they were okay receiving for the past few years they're not okay with, or there's just a different dynamic that has come into play. So
Absolutely.
Before we dive into that, give me a little bit about your background. How did you get into real estate? How did you become an entrepreneur? I think that's a really pivotal or profound thing to hear about how all of us crazies kind of got into this business.
Well, so I have kind of a unique background. So I'm actually a wildlife biologist. So I worked with endangered species for like 26 years.
I love that.
So
I didn't realize that.
Very, very different than a lot of people's background. So hanging out in trees with chainsaws, hanging out in helicopters, doing prescribed burning. That was my life for, the vast majority. But I knew going in that, wildlife biologist, you're not going to make a lot of money in that, right? So that's all about passion, and that was my passion. I love doing that. But I also wanted to be able to provide for my family. So I started investing in real estate alongside that since before I even got out of college.
Really?
Yeah. So I was in college, completely broke.
Yeah. What was the impetus of real estate?
Late night studying. Yeah. So I'm studying late night, and they used to have those infomercials.
Yeah.
You just had the TV running in the background while you're studying. Yeah. Do you remember a really early real estate guru?
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember what his name is?
There were a few of them.
I'm asking because I can't remember his name at the moment.
It wasn't Ron LeGrand.
No, it was before that.
It was
before that.
Not Robert.
Kiyosaki, no.
No, it wasn't Kiyosaki. What's the other guy with Nothing Down in the 2000s, Nothing Down in the 1990s?
Yeah, this was all Nothing Down. It was in the 90s. And right
what the hell's
now,
his name?
the name is escaping me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ordered his class with the last money I had. It was money I'd put aside to buy my books for the next semester, so I didn't have money for my books. But it came on cassette tapes. That's how long ago this was. It came on 32 cassette tapes, and I listened to all of those tapes in the next 2 days instead of studying for my finals, which is probably what I should have been doing. But nonetheless, I bought my first house within the next 2 months. Nothing down, lease option. So
what do you think differentiates you from taking that action versus the limitless number of people who watch that infomercial, who watch the gurus on social media, who hear about the courses? I mean, there's people watching this who have never come to Commercial Empire or attended any of our events. It's what's the difference between the person who takes action, who doesn't take action?
I think it was because I wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted my cake, I wanted to eat it too. I wanted to do that thing I was passionate about, but I also wanted to have money enough to travel and live my life and take care of my family.
Was it a level of discomfort before you took action, or was it just, I want it that bad? Or I feel like there's either, I'm so uncomfortable that I have to go take action, or I want that lifestyle so bad that I'm going to go and take action. I feel like there's this lukewarm where nobody moves and everybody's just kind of stagnant.
I think I was young and had nothing to lose.
Yeah, I like that.
That's when you can take risks, right? Before you have the family and everybody depending on that paycheck. I was used to being broke.
Yeah.
So how much worse could it be, right? I'm already eating ramen noodles and cucumbers every dinner. So it wasn't really a far leap. So I just said, if I want to be able to pursue my passion for the rest of my life, I need to have another income.
Yep.
And I didn't want to depend on, maybe I'll marry a spouse that does really well and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's great. Those are bonuses, but you want to make sure that you can do it on your own.
Yeah. I love that. So you go and get your first house. Tell me a little bit about it, and then how did this continue to progress over 20-some years?
Yeah, so that was a lease option type of deal, and I realized, wow, you really can buy this. It was a big house. I mean, no college student should have a house that big with a pool and all this on an acre lot. in
Did you
Gainesville,
move in?
Florida. Yeah. We lived there.
And rented out it to a bunch of your friends.
I ended up renting out one wing. It was kind of cool. It had 2 wings. It was U-shaped with a pool in the middle. Great party house. You could dive right from the roofs into the pool. Those days are over. But nonetheless, the kitchen was kind of in the middle. So it was easy to rent out one wing of that. So it kind of paid for itself. So without realizing it, the term wasn't there yet, kind of house hacking, right? So, but then it was just a matter of every time we moved a lot, we'd keep the previous house and buy another one because we figured out you could do it without money down. So we didn't have to cash out of that first one. So then we just had rental properties. I say we because in 1 month I bought a house, got married, and got my first career all in May 1996. So now really dated myself. But nonetheless, it was a busy month, and then kept doing that as we moved. And then I want to say I'm a genius, but really I just got lucky. So 2008, everybody else cries about 2008. But we actually sold most of our portfolio then, like at the top of that bubble, like just made a crap ton of money. Like,
what was it that, were you just like, these numbers are crazy, I should sell?
No.
Or was it pure luck? Or like, what was it that, I don't know, just gave you a little bit of, let's sell these?
It was an opportunity knocking. We did one that was like a flip. We were going to keep it as a rental, decided to flip it. And I'm hosting the open house, and I have a certain price, and I get that offer immediately. And I'm like, I don't want to take that then, right?
Yeah.
So then I wait for the other one. Then I call my husband. I'm like, you know what? This is kind of crazy. And I said, what do you think if we just auction it? I'm going to put out a slip of paper, and people are just going to put down like the highest amount they think they can pay for it. And we did that, and by the end of the day, we'd gotten $100,000 more than we expected for that house. It was just insane. So I was like, okay, the market's, this can't keep up, right? And there was another opportunity. We wanted to buy a business. So we were looking, Massage Envy, you may have heard of that franchise. It was brand new at the time. I'd rented an entrepreneur magazine that this has taken off. It's doing really well. But we needed a lot of money to get into that. And unlike real estate, you can't leverage it. You can't leverage a business you haven't built yet, right? But you can leverage real estate. So we cashed out some for the down payment, leveraged the rest to get into that business. So that was kind of the emphasis. We had this other opportunity. There were 2 opportunities kind of knocking. You can get a crap ton of money for these houses, and here's a business opportunity. So we got into the business. It took off, did really well. So those kind of businesses did amazing during recessions. Everything else was like, gloom, and this was taking off. So then it goes full cycle.
Interesting. People were getting, like, massages were up during the recession?
Alcohol sales.
I would
massages.
Like, that's obvious.
Because people are stressed out.
Yeah.
People are stressed out.
Gotcha.
And they're not taking the big vacations, so they're treating themselves more at home.
Got it.
And ours was the business model where you get a membership and you come in regularly, right? So it's a kind of a treat for yourself. Oh, I didn't get to go to Hawaii.
I had one, I don't know, until I moved to Charleston. They don't have them here, but I had them in Ohio.
Okay, well, I need to build one here then.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you still have some?
We do, yep. And one's free to a good home because it's not doing so well. So if you want to get in cheap, I got you. It actually caught fire on Thanksgiving, but that's another story. That's another story. Anyway, so then the business is now generating income. That's a problem, right? We have all this money, so what do? We put it back into real estate. Only this time we got smarter and decided to go multifamily. So that's kind of how it grew. It was like one thing led to another, which led to another, which is pretty typical.
When did you get your first multifamily? What year?
2019. So,
oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So, but you sold everything in 08?
No, we kept some. I mean, the stuff that was cash flowing, there wasn't any need to sell it. Rents were actually going up.
Yeah.
We weren't over leveraged. So we were fine on those. So we kept some of that portfolio. So we never got out of the real estate game. We just kind of took a little hiatus, built some businesses, had that cash flowing, and then got back in, even stronger and bigger.
So let's talk about maximizing returns. I want to talk about maximizing returns as a passive investor, but also in your existing portfolio, because you piecemealed some of those properties off. What were there certain metrics or certain measurements or certain variables that you quantified of, like, this one needs to go because it's either a headache or it's management intensive or it's not, the return on the equity could be better somewhere else? Like, what were those things in the sale of those properties and how you maximize your returns?
Yeah, so I'm a very analytical person. So I looked at all those metrics, all the KPs, right? And, having seen the light in multifamily and gotten into that world, I also did some LP stuff. And when I looked back at the return on investments in all my properties, outside the businesses part, it's like, holy crap. I made the most money where I did the least amount of work. I'm going to say that again. I made the most money where I did the least amount of work.
Yep.
I was like, why am I killing myself with some of these rental properties where I had to kick out druggies, I had my life threatened, I had stalkers. I mean, landlording is not for the timid, right? So I'm like, no, this has got to stop. And my money's going to work harder for me here. So then it was about, how do I maximize that? And if I'm bringing investors to do that.
That was all like LP positions or private money loans to other operators? Was the highest returns?
Well, yes, at that time before I bought my own. So, with some of the ones I bought my own, they did really well. I think last year, I have a little eight unit property in Bradenton, Florida, halfway between Tampa and Orlando, kind of a growing area. In 1 year, it increased 38%. It's like,
It's wild.
yeah, and I don't know much on it. So right, so I mean, the return on that kind of investment is great. But why? Because I picked the right market. I picked the right property. There were certain main keys that made that one perform so much better than like the 12 unit I had not that far from that. That one did really crappy. So why is that? So being analytical, I looked at all that and I said, you know what? Let's make a course about this. Let's teach people how to maximize their returns, and particularly passively, because what I love about passive is you can do an unlimited amount of it, right? Because it's not sucking up your time.
It's so scalable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can only do so many that I am managing, and my hands are in there every day, right? Like, there's only so many hours in a day. So as a passive investor, it's limitless. But I think a lot of people don't know how to get in. They don't know why they should go in. They don't know all the benefits that come along with it, all the crazy tax benefits, and how to maximize that, right? I mean, you've heard it. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. I've heard you say it. It's so important, but you have to know it in order to do that. Someone's not handing that to you. So take all those little pieces, put it all together. Like, here it is. Here's the blueprint. Follow this, and you're going to knock it out of the park.
So what if somebody doesn't have access to that capital, right?
I talk about where you could get some of that. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things people don't realize they have, right? Like retirement funds. So many people have these
401k,
retirement
self-directed IRA. You could self-direct a lot of those things.
Yeah, and I didn't know you could self-direct, right? I had those accounts. They're whittling away, some mutual fund with tons of fees. My returns weren't what they should be. I had no control over it. And someone goes, you can self-direct that. I was like,
yeah.
I can invest it wherever I want. I can put it all in crypto.
Yeah. We've all went down that road.
Yep.
Hey, we're investing for the long term, though. It's dollar cost averaging. I wouldn't sweat it.
All that thing. I mean, diversifying is important, right? So did do some of that. So that's not in there, is how to invest in crypto.
Yeah. No, I think, a big lesson that I've learned in investing in a lot of different things is just invest in you, invest in your own business, invest in your own knowledge, invest in your own network. And I was talking to my sister-in-law. She was in town over Thanksgiving, and she's like, well, Tim, I have X number of dollars. Like, where should I put it? And I was like, if you took, I don't know what the amount was, I'm making this up, but if you took $10,000 and lend it to an investor, you make 8%. Okay, that's $800 a year or whatever it is on $10,000 versus taking that money and investing it into your own business, right, and your own knowledge, and learning how to go out and raise more money at a lower percentage, and then arbitraging that, meaning lending it back out and making a spread on that.
Right.
I'd rather see you take $10,000 and get the information on how to go to Maria and say, hey, Maria, will you lend me $500,000, take that $500,000, lend it to somebody else, and make a 3% spread on it, and all of a sudden you're making $15,000 a year. Passively, right?
Tim, now I got to rewrite the course. I didn't put that in there.
No. But I'm saying, like, I'd rather see people invest in themselves and invest in education and learning how to do this stuff rather than thinking that,
and so much of this education is available for you, for people out there for free, right?
Yep.
I mean, you've got tons of stuff on your YouTube channel. You offer tons of classes for free. Now you've got this Legacy Academy, $9.
Yep.
Is it $9 or $10? Whatever.
$9.95.
$9.95 a month.
We're rounded down, so it's $9.95.
$9.95. Yeah, so I mean, it's just inexpensive, and you can learn from everybody else's mistakes. I mean, I made a ton of mistakes. There are properties I really wish I wouldn't have bought. There are properties I should have bought. I thought were too expensive at the time, and now I'm like, oh my God. You know,
But there's also
so.
properties I'm sure that you're like, I wanted to buy that. Thank God I didn't buy it.
Yes,
because it
yes,
went the
there's
wrong
all
way.
of that. But the point is, you know, someone can leverage that knowledge, all those headaches we've already gone through.
Big
They
time.
don't have to get the brain damage. So that's kind of what this course is all about.
I love it.
What are the key points?
So all right. So let's break it down. Let's go into it. When you're looking at investments and you're looking to maximize your returns on your passive investment specifically.
Yes.
So what is the first step in? I don't want to take away from your course, but at the same time, like, give me the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, first we look at the 4 keys to selecting the right investment, right? So you're looking at the sponsor, you know, how to vet that sponsor is critically important.
So many people look at like the return or something first, and I
Yes,
think the
that's a big
sponsor is the
mistake.
most important one.
There's a reason I have that one as number 1.
Yeah.
So first look at the sponsor, then look at the market, right? You don't want to be in that shrinking market, but maybe the fastest growing market, it's going to be like a 3 or 4 cap where you're not going to make anything, right? So, so just how to look at that market and decide if that's somewhere you want to be. After that, we look at the property itself, right? So that's third
the
on the
asset,
list
yep.
for a reason. We're looking at that asset. Do we want to be in a class A, B, C, D? Pros and cons of those. Where are you going to maximize? Then the business plan. Is this a value add? Are we, you know, are we going to refinance and hold this thing long term after that? So you've got your money back, but you're going to continue to receive cash flow here. And then we get into those terms like IRR, AAR, all that kind of stuff. What the heck does that mean? Do I want a preferred return? Is that in my benefit if I'm looking to maximize? Well, we break all that down because I think a lot of people, they just get these pitch decks, these OMs, right? And they see all these terms and all these numbers and they're just like, it's too much. Like they don't even know what.
I am one of them. I don't even look at them because I'm not going to dive in analytically.
Right.
And I do this business and I don't even know what half of those terms mean.
Right. And so it's super complicated. So in the course, I'm like, these are the key things to look for. Like, look at these 3 items, ignore the rest, you know, because there are all sorts of pretty pictures and graphs and that all looks nice.
Yep.
But then the other thing is, it's a plan. Plans change, and it's not ever going to follow it exactly. Those projections you're seeing, they are just that. They're projections. It's not going to be exact. So, you know, bet on the jockey. Bet on the sponsors, bet on the market. Don't get bogged down in those numbers because it's not going to be exact. So that's kind of where we start is those 4 keys, looking at that. But then it goes further, looking at your funding source. Where are you pulling your money from? Because depending on where that money came from, that also affects your returns, right? So you mentioned the retirement accounts, Roth accounts, right? You can grow that income tax-free. I mean, that's so powerful, right? So that's going to maximize your returns if you find all the different tax shelters. I have a whole section there in tax shelters. People are like, oh, taxes, it's so boring. You know what? It's not so boring when you're making these big checks. It's super, super important.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things, like we have people who invest as a limited partner with their self-directed 401k or self-directed IRA, and you can't get depreciation in that scenario.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, if you want to lend money from that account, it's probably better to lend it, to bring cash for this deal, and then lend your money as like operating capital over here on your IRA or 401k because you can't get the depreciation. And if you invest with cash, then you can get the depreciation. But if not, no problem, you can throw it in there. But we actually have like a class where we carve out because they can't take it anyways. So then we can maybe incentivize other people or the other partners to invest if they are dead set on that. But I mean, that's a key piece, right?
Yeah, that's why that funding source is critical. Which source are you using?
If you're using cash, to lend hard money.
That's going to affect which business plan you select.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, and so the other part is, maybe you have money sitting in stocks. I mean, stock market is not doing real lovely right now.
Down, what is it, 14 or 19% or something? It just jumped back up this week, or last week.
And maybe you had crypto. Maybe you bought into crypto, right? So I know for me, I'm like really hesitant to cash that out because I'm like, I cash it out now, it's low, right? I'm losing money. But if it takes years for that to recover,
what's the opportunity cost?
What's the opportunity cost, right? So that goes into your maximizing your returns. You can't give up that opportunity cost of it sitting there not working for you.
So I don't know if you know about this hack or if you've heard about this, but there's a lot of people who just like, if you want to keep your crypto, you can actually sell it and buy back in right away, and then that way you realize your losses for this year. And so, like, I bought in up here. Right?
Yeah, me too.
I've lost. I don't even know.
I bought at Christmas time. Bad time to buy crypto.
Yeah, that's.
Ooh, bought it for the kids too.
Yeah. So I lost about 65%, I think, on my overall. But I can realize that loss at least. That's, I don't know, it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and realize it for 2022. So that way it allows me to sell. I can buy back in if I want to at this low basis, but then that way I at least realize the loss, and I take hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss on my taxes this year if I need it. So,
Okay.
Or I kind of like the idea of just cashing it out and then roll it into
Something
your
else.
own business or something that you really, really know, your knowledge, your own business, or some of these passive investments with somebody who knows what the hell that they're doing in that space.
And same with stocks. You could probably realize the loss on that too, and buy back in. And some people, they're like, no, I'm just going to hold those stocks forever, no matter what, right? Well, you can also borrow against them. You know, so I don't know what the rate of doing so is. It's got to make sense. If you're going to borrow money to invest money, you better be making more on your investment than what your borrowing cost is. But if the borrowing cost is low enough, that's an option too. So you could put your money to work in two places.
So what are your thoughts on good debt versus bad debt?
There's a lot of good debt, especially when it's hard assets backing it, right? I mean, that's how we were able to buy our businesses, and those businesses changed our lifestyle considerably, right?
What do you think is the biggest bottleneck with people taking on debt? Is just the mindset, the fear of knowing that I owe somebody something?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely bad debt out there. I don't carry credit card debt. I use my credit cards. I want all those points and perks, but I pay them off every month, right? Because I don't want to pay 12, 15, 20%, whatever credit cards are charging these days. So it's definitely bad debt, and I think there's so much stigmatism towards that people are afraid of it.
Well, it's a lack of education. You know, you don't realize, you just think debt's bad, debt's bad, debt's bad. You hear that for your entire life, and then you're like, well, all debt's bad. And I was talking to a family friend who's looking at buying a house, and they can go get a 6% mortgage, right? Mortgage rates are so expensive right now. They're 6%. Well, relatively speaking, they're the cheapest they've been in 20 years, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Even with the rate hikes that we've seen. And they're like, well, I'm going to cash out my 401k. I was like, well, that's going to put you in a tax bracket where you're paying 30% of every dollar that you take out and paying it to taxes in the government versus taking out a 6% mortgage on that extra $100,000. Like, why would you? Well, I just don't like the idea of owing somebody money. Like, it's a horrible financial decision, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
I hear security all the time. I feel secure if my house is paid off. I feel secure if all these things are paid off. I feel more secure when there's a lot of money in my checking account.
Agreed. And here's
because
the thing.
I can cover that debt.
If somebody, God forbid, you get in a car accident or something, and you hurt somebody, and it goes over your car limit, goes over. Let's say you have an umbrella, or you don't have an umbrella, and it goes over that, and you have to they start looking at your assets, and they see that this is paid off, and that's paid off, and this is paid off.
It's a lot of money to go after.
Salivating. These blood-sucking, ambulance-chasing attorneys are salivating, can't wait to go after you.
Right.
If you got mortgages on everything, and then you have that cash in the bank, they see, you own a $400,000 house, and you owe $350,000 on it. By the time they go through the legal process and the court fees and the attorney's fees, and everybody gets paid back, and then you have to fire sale the house and pay commissions and pay closing costs. Like, there's no equity in this thing. I can't even gain access to it. And so I think, knowing what I know, there's a level of security in having mortgages on your properties instead of having them paid off in full, and then having access to that cash, which the attorneys cannot see, and having that out in investments that's then driving more returns, better returns than what the mortgage cost of that loan
and all
is.
those are in different LLCs that they can't necessarily see or get to, and that's producing the cash flow that could be paying for that debt on that house 10 times over. So yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely.
So it comes down to your financial literacy and understanding stuff from your master class of all the different ways that you can pull money and actually having more security because of that versus debt creating no security or lack of security. I think it's completely the opposite. The more financially literate you are, you understand debt can be an amazing tool if used the right way. It's just people aren't educated on how to use it the right way.
Absolutely. And then the final piece, or one of the final pieces to maximizing those returns, is how you layer your investments. and I don't think people think enough about
Talk
this.
more about that.
Yeah, so, you buy one property, it refis in year 3. You pull that money out, you immediately put it into something else. Now that first property that you bought, that cashed out in year 3, it's going to sell in year 5. Well, if the next property I buy is going to sell at that same time, now I've got 2 things, you're going to get a lot of cash that year, right? So you're going to have a big tax burden if you don't have some serious depreciation to write that off. You got some of that bonus depreciation or something. If you instead invest in properties that are where the timing doesn't line up like that, you kind of spread them out. You can more easily write off more of those taxes and keep more in your pocket. So how you layer that is going to be important.
I love that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to watch your course or your master class, because there's so many different dynamics that go into the whole finance world and making sure that you're balancing all this stuff out. What would you say to somebody who almost feels like overwhelmed by all the different dynamics and trying to think of everything in the full overall overarching all the concepts? Like, what's the most important thing, or how can you get them to kind of just relax and say, hey, listen, step by step, or what?
Yeah, I mean, so this class lays it out step by step, so it explains everything. And then the very last chapter, we put all those pieces together, right? Okay, so it's just a bullet checklist. You just check the boxes, go down the line. Part of maximizing your returns is minimizing loss. So how do you do that? How do you make sure you don't have losses? Talk about diversification, that sort of stuff. So it's just a matter of, the whole course is like an hour and a half. Can you not invest an hour and a half in making sure you can maximize all of this? Because it's not that complicated when you break it down step by step, and then you just follow that checklist at the end. Just do those things.
I think true brilliance isn't talking about complex things or creating complexities in what you're discussing. I think it's taking those complex issues and simplifying it into something that you can actually digest and have simple understanding of, and checklists and simple process maps, and being able to conceptualize that and take that, again, the complexness, and make it simple. And that shows just absolutely true genius on your part.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. I'm excited to check out your master class. And tell me a little bit about, what does the next 12 to 24 months look like in your business? What are you seeing, real quick, with the market changing and everything else?
Yeah, we're actually going to be setting up a fund where people can do some of these things inside the fund, where they can diversify and protect themselves in one place. And little pitch, sorry.
No, absolutely.
But inside that fund, I'm also going to have where you can invest with your heart as well as your wallet.
Love it.
So
yeah, you have a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah. So I'm doing housing for adults with autism, and so we're going to privatize that to where people can invest with that really solid long-term returns, because this is property that won't ever sell. So that's going to be out there as well. But we're going to put that together with properties that are strong value adds, where you're going to get those really great returns. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on.
Make sure you guys connect with her. We'll share all of her contact information in the show notes. Follow her on social media. And if you're not part of Legacy Wealth Academy, you need to be part of it. It's less than $10 a month to gain access to all these master classes and meet some of the best, brightest, most brilliant entrepreneurs in the entire country, talking about wealth building and real estate and all these different personal finance concepts to make you healthy, wealthy, and wise. So appreciate you guys being here. We will see you on the next episode of Spilling the Beans. Hey, hope you guys got a ton of value out of that. Do me a favor and like the channel, subscribe, and give me your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. If you're not connected with Maria, make sure that you are. She's always given a ton of value, and she's a great human being. She's amazing at business and even a better human. So I appreciate you guys being here, and until next time, I'll see you on Spill the Beans.